Mortal world turned to ice. Here be Goblin paradise. Forgive that intrusion, great lord, but goblins are inclined to be outspoken, and I like to encourage their initiative.
Hearthstone Tavern, a Warcraft RP podcast, highlighting the RP in MMORPG. You're listening to part 2 of the Hearthstone Tavern Roleplay Podcast number 6. I am your host, Susanna, aka Stardancer. In part 2, the cast continues roundtable discussions on the new expansion, Cataclysm, by talking about the interesting new zones and what that may mean for changes in the world. We follow that with some fascinating segments by the cast. Mox presents why and how your character is out in the world in character development. Nat tells us about Starsong and the Scythe of Elune in Lore Library. Michael talks about details and possibilities in developing your Worgen character in The Little Things. And Brent gives us some tips on dealing with RPers block in RP Made Simple. This show is full of information and ideas, so kick back, grab a mug, and have a great time.
This is Brent, aka Sullivan.
Susanna, I play Stardancer.
I'm Harper, aka Pyrus. I'm the player of Cormac. People call me Mox for short.
This is Michael, also known as Anansi.
Hi, I'm Ria. I play Lania.
Hey, this is Matt, aka Taldarion Chatterbound.
I'm Richard, otherwise known as Therian Gracier.
This week's topic is Cataclysm and all the incredible WoW expansion news. Some of the places that they're going to be opening, Brent has mentioned in the past. One of the ones they're going to be opening is Grin Batal. Woohoo! How do you feel about that, Brent? We're actually going to see the inside of that place.
I'm kind of anticipating it. I actually made a field trip through the Red Dragons and the Whelps, and after a slight unsuccessful attempt getting a Whelp, I took Shaw out and went to the front doors just to see what was going on. Oddly enough, I had never gone all the way up there to see what it looked like. Either I was like too low or, the opportunity didn't really present itself. And I went up there and it's like, man, this is going to look kind of neat when they get this thing going. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what's behind the doors.
And we haven't seen anything yet. If it looks anything like it does right now, I will be so surprised. I mean,
yeah,
I think, what we're seeing right now, and as we talk about these places, we're just going to be so blown away. They could do anything they want. They can change these things. It's going to be so cool. One of the places that I'm really, really looking forward to stems back to a time when Stardancer was in a guild. Susanna was in a guild,
yeah.
And her guild took me through some clever terrain exploits up into Hyjal. I mean, I play Night Elves.
That's a secret.
So
no.
closely. Whatever. They're all gonna find out now.
It's over now. They're not gonna bust you for that now.
15 of us, something like 15 of us sneaking into Mount Hyjal back in the day, and me including it in RP since then because I'd seen inside it and I could write about it and just including it in written RP.
How do you roleplay that construction sign, man?
Well, I ignore the construction sign because I don't think construction signs. Yeah,
Gnomes did it.
Gnomes
did it. Gnomes do everything. Anything that doesn't fit, gnomes did it.
It's their fault.
I have to say though,
bread?
I have to say that I am so excited. I am so thrilled that Hyjal is finally going to open, the traditional home of the Night Elves. It's almost worth all the talk that we're losing so much land in other places, which probably we are. It's almost worth it to me that that's coming back. I have absolutely no clue why Ragnaros is going to be attacking the old world tree, what his purpose could possibly be, and I am so stoked to find out why and stop him.
There's going to be a new zone called Tolbarad. Oh, maybe that's the island of the...
Tolbarad is an island, yes. Tolbarad exists out between the two continents that we know right now. It's a former Strumen Yonghold? Wow. I don't know. Apparently I decided that it was in Northrend and it was a Frostborn city. It's a former human stronghold. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah,
the humans were out there, huh?
Butchered. Yeah, it was a former human place. I believe it was under the rule of Coltiris, which would be Jaina Proudmoore's father and that whole line of people. And the biggest thing about it is there's been a prison there that has been considered the strongest prison on Azeroth, stronger than anything we've ever seen before, where big-time magic users were kept hidden. And also big-time magic items, like items that could literally destroy or help the world. Sometimes they were buried there so nobody nefarious could get their hands on them. Now it's going to be a PvP zone, mostly. It'll be similar to Wintergrasp in that we'll have wars to take it over. But once you take it over, as of right now, it will be the major quest hub with the daily quests that offer the most money, but you'll only be able to do those daily quests if your side holds the city. And they really have hyped this up as it'll be the center for daily stuff. Personally, that worries me a lot because I'm not somebody who wants to do dailies in a place that I'm permaflagged.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm wondering how that'll all work out. We need more details yet again, but it's something neat.
But my
Yeah,
assumption
not at
is
all.
that my assumption that the dailies are probably going to be PvP oriented, that we'll still see dailies outside of that for the other zones, but Tolbarad will be kind of the hybrid point for those that kind of want that. Because the issue comes in now, with Wintergrasp is what really do you do between the battles in that zone? So I think that's kind of their answer. So I think it's largely going to be PvP.
I agree. I completely agree, and like I said, I'm excited about it. I mean, the fact that it was explicitly stated, and I've read several times since then in exact transcripts from Blizzard, that this will be where the money-making dailies take place, that none of the other dailies will be quite as profitable for this. That feels a little bit wrong to me right now, so we'll have to see how it comes out. Now, over the course of the expansion, other places could appear over time too, I mean, the tournament grounds are the big moneymaker daily set right now, and they're open to everybody, and there's absolutely no PvP in that area.
That's fascinating. Can't wait to see how that's going to play out. I also want to know, maybe Richard can answer the question with regard to Vashir. Is this going to be an underwater area where you're going to actually have to be underwater, or is it underwater to get to the location?
It is underwater. It is actually a sunken city with entire sections that will be submerged. Blizzard promises underwater combat will not suck. I believe that's a direct quote from one of the developers because they know that is a definite point of conflict for people. Some areas will be submerged. Some areas will be just inside a room, to where you look outside and you see fish swimming by at the bottom of the ocean. So it will be both. But I believe, from what I understand, the sunken city of Vashir will also lead into the Abyssal Maw. That's actually going to be where we're going to cross over into the elemental plane of water and, who knows, hopefully face off with Neptulon. But yes, it will be in underwater spots. They're going to redo their underwater fighting mechanics. I believe it was said when you hit the bottom, it's standard fighting mechanics, that it's treated just as if you're walking on land. I believe it would shift between one or the other depending if you were swimming or walking on the bottom of the sea.
Because underwater fighting is so far in every game I've tried it has really sucked.
Yeah.
So that means, that's going to mean people are going to want to hang on to any kind of water breathing trinkets, staves, permanent type of water breathing things that they come across, wouldn't you say?
Possibly, but I would also expect a lot more to crop up. It's not like Blizzard to leave us unequipped for a major zone like that. I feel that there'll be vendors that sell like fish bladders with air in them that you could just use for a 10-minute, air supply or whatever.
Little engineering attachment for a helmet, things that alchemists can make that extend water breathing potions to like hours.
The idea excites me because it really is as close as we're probably getting right now to Ajara, the villain, not the zone, and Najdatar. I mean,
so
it really
it's
is.
Sort of a test, maybe they're testing this out, seeing how we fare in there before they even try to do Ashara.
That seems like what it is. This seems like a proof of concept test to see how it works out, to see how technology works out, to see how people react to it. And if everything goes well and as planned, then who knows? Ajara may be the next villain down the line. We're going to have to face off with her at some point in time.
Yeah, everything is centering on the Maelstrom for this thing. In the advertisements and in the videos, who's in the Maelstrom? Who's the big baddie at the bottom of the Maelstrom underneath the water there? Everybody knows it's Ashara. She's terrible. She's powerful. She's nasty. Okay, so sooner or later we're going to have to come up against her in this area.
She's allied with the old gods. So there's a really good chance that Ajara is going to have probably, I would guess, her own expansion.
Over the last, years of the game, my guild, the Tears of Draenor, and particularly my character Cormac, have formed temporary alliances and respect for relationships with various members of the alliance who we would generally be killing each other through general game mechanics. But I mean, we've done RP events and we've gone to war against NPC factions together, and we fought alongside one another. But the changes that are coming in Cataclysm are definitely going to be altering the playing field a little bit, because the Horde is taking Night Elf territories and human territories, and the Alliance is taking Orc and Tauren territories, in exchange. And in particular, with the example of my guild, and kind of giving a shout out here to Moonwood Rangers on Earthen Ring and their guild leader Draliana. I mean, they're generally a guild we've gotten along with very well in the past, despite being Horde and Alliance respectively. We've kind of had we've had fairly good relations with one another. And because the Horde is taking territories in Ashenvale, the Tears of Draenor are kind of honor bound to, even if those territories might have been taken under fairly unpleasant pretenses, we have to defend our people. I mean, that's honor is meaningless without loyalty. So it's going to bring the Tears of Draenor in conflict with the Moonwood Rangers and probably by extension the Netherbane as well, because I mean, they trained in Ashenvale, and we're essentially taking that territory from them. So it's going to be kind of sad to see friends fighting each other when there's technically bigger fish to fry.
As a side note, Mox, don't worry about it. You'll take the side of lessons. I'll just roll a couple of Horde, NPC characters, and let you all deal with the myriad of disembodied voices that the Netherbane has to deal with at that place. It'll be fun.
Good times.
I'd like to point out, though, Mox, that in a way that's kind of cool. I mean, yeah, you guys are friends and you've played people that are friends, and that's something that you've done before, but this is going to cause you to grow as RPers, Suddenly people who played friends, you have to play, or you want to play, that they're becoming enemies, and that is really the point of RP, is to learn more through those stories. So this is going to change the story up for you guys quite a bit, and I'm excited for you and for the Netherbane to a degree, although I will say again that the Netherbane tends to kind of we've tried to stay out of a lot of those PvP type of things, that conflict between Alliance and Horde. We're kind of outside of that, but there are a lot of us who are going to be angry about Ashenvale, and I wonder if it's going, what it's going to cause for Thar's people too, Therian Greyseer's students, or if they're, suddenly mad about that. How is that going to affect Thar, affect Taldarian, affect the guild as a whole? What are we going to do to that? I think it's great for RP, honestly, because it adds something else for your characters to respond to.
I agree completely. I mean, role playing is really, nothing without some degree of conflict, and this is really the ultimate expression of the conflict between Horde and Alliance. I mean, we're fighting for survival, but at the same time, we're now essentially having to fight one another just for the meager resources that are left behind after the Cataclysm. Our characters are part of a world where endless conflict is one of the core setting tropes. Many of us fight abroad in strange lands against horrific foes, sometimes crossing the boundaries that separate whole worlds in order to bring retribution to our enemies. For all the time that we spend in battle, it's no wonder that some folks tend to forget what they left home to protect in the first place. A useful character development exercise can be performed by figuring out details on what your character left behind at home. The most common response to this question is often going to be some version of family, friends, a house, or something to that effect. I should state that this is most certainly not a bad thing at all. People go off to war all the time in the real world and leave behind their wife and kids, so there's no problem at all in making this sort of thing a reality for your persona. Sometimes, though, it's a little more complicated, or even funny. I can recall interacting with an Alliance character, once upon a time, who had signed up for the army to escape mounting, gambling, and financial debts. Loan sharks and tax collectors generally don't go out of their way to track you down in the blasted remains of Draenor or the frozen reaches of Northrend. When asked about what he would do when the wars ended and he went back home, the character replied to me, "Well, I just gotta hope that doesn't ever happen, right?" For others, though, this is a darker question. There are those who go to war because they have nothing left at home. Their lives, as they knew them, were irrevocably shattered by the events of the Warcraft timeline, and there's no direction left other than to wade into conflict and either meet their end or carve out a new destiny. Though this has the potential to lead you into a pit of character angst, it can still lead to a compelling story if properly controlled. even the most wicked of characters can have some memory of their previously mundane life that either keeps them away or makes them promise to return. The cruel Forsaken sorcerer might have been abroad during the events of the Third War and learned of his wife's infidelity just before the plague took him. Now, cursed to undeath, he still vows to return to Stormwind one day and remind his wife that the fury of a woman scorned is one thing, but the fiery retribution of a spurned sorcerer can be much more horrifying and fatal. If you elect to use the standard family at home method, there are many ways you can modify the trope to make it unique to your character. While there may not be anything immediately, obviously compelling about having a spouse and children awaiting your return, a few tweaks can turn a seemingly boring background quality into something special. Politics, war, and the trials of daily living in the Warcraft world make our characters' lives anything but easy, and civilians, perhaps civilians in particular, tend to get caught up in these circumstances right alongside the rest of us. There are cultural considerations to take into account as well. Night Elves are not just tall humans with pointy ears and purple skin, to say nothing of the societal differences between Alliance and Horde. Not every race has the same sort of family structure or upbringing, so you need to do a little homework on what is appropriate for your character's race. Several of the Horde races, for example, don't have access to their homes anymore or have been forced to find a new one. This is particularly accurate when discussing trolls, as they tend to be evicted from their territories at the drop of a hat, usually as part of a content patch or raid. Nevertheless, this exercise is still important for those types of characters, if only as a lodestone that directs your future interactions. This is a more passive method of developing your character. It does not necessarily have the same immediate significance of, say, knowing how your persona deals with members of the other faction, what they do with the bodies of the people they kill, or anything of that nature. Nevertheless, this particular subject can help you explore the motivations behind such front-row qualities and give you much stronger roots when called upon to explain them. That brings this segment of character development to a close. Every detail that you elaborate upon can be an excellent way to bring more depth to your character, and that's why I'll ask you to remember to keep writing. See you next time, folks.
Welcome to the Lore Library, Hearthstone Tavern's regular segment on the backstory of the Warcraft universe. This is Matt. I play Taldarian Shatterbound. And every other episode, I feature a new topic in Warcraft lore. For every episode in between, Richard Therian Grayseer Powell does the same. Today on Lore Library, we're looking deep into Night Elf history. Well, not that deep. We're actually going back only a few short years to the time right before World of Warcraft, where we'll learn the story of Valinda Starsong, the priestess and sentinel at the center of one particular branch of the Worgen story so far. But wait, you might say. Doesn't the Worgen story begin with Archmage Aragal? Well, begin is such a timely word, so I'll just say, not completely. Unfortunately, there's a lot going on with the story in-game right now, and it's very confusing. That's part of the reason why the Worgen starting area in Cataclysm will be so interesting. In the meantime, though, let's look at the story from Valinda's perspective. As a sentinel assigned to clean up the remains of the Burning Legion in Ashenvale and Fellwood after the Third War, Starsong found herself making no real headway. So like any good priestess of the moon, she prayed to Elune for guidance and help. Her prayers were answered in the form of a weapon, the Scythe of Elune. Starsong herself describes this item in her journal as an ancient thing, a branch twisted and gnarled of wood that could be older than even the Kaldori. But the item was much more than a simple branch, and when she held it in her hands, Starsong was granted with a vision. Savage wolfmen in a world surrounded by chaos. These Worgen battled a powerful foe called the Lords of the Emerald Flame, and though they were a primitive race, they fought with a ferocity Starsong felt that she could use against the Legion. She couldn't have been more right. Using the Scythe to communicate telepathically with those she identified as the leaders of the group, Starsong soon had a number of attack parties ravaging their way through the demons of Fellwood. The Legion's last holds in the area were soon falling. Starsong's mission seemed to be coming to an end, but something was wrong. Starsong returned to her base camp, the Shrine of Melthandris in northern Ashenvale, only to find that more Worgen had been summoned into the world. Summoned, though neither she nor the other Worgen had done the summoning. Concerned, Starsong searched the libraries of Darnassus and spoke with the ancient Onu in Darkshore, but none had heard of the Worgen. There was no information to be found until Starsong heard whispers of a Kirintor archmage named Arugal. Yes, that Arugal. After ordering the Worgen to remain behind in the shrine, Starsong began her mission and headed toward the eastern kingdoms. She had to speak with Aragal, to learn what she could. Few details are known. Starsong traveled south through Ashenvale and booked passage to Booty Bay from Ratchet. From there, she traveled north through Stranglethorn Vale and into Duskwood. She was never heard from again. Well, not yet. What we know is this much. A man called Jitters stumbled upon the Scythe in a cave, and upon touching it was given a spectral warning by Starsong, who was either dead or speaking to him from beyond the veil on the Worgen homeworld. And this warning came just in time as the Scythe, now in Jitters' shaky hands, began to summon forth more of the Worgen menaces. Jitters ran. He disclosed of the Scythe at the farm of Sven Jorgen, starting a whole new mess involving treachery, murder, and the mysterious sect known only as the Dark Riders. That's what we've got. There's a whole lot going on here that I'd like to know. For example, was it truly even Elune who sent the Scythe? How will all this story connect to our new allies in the Alliance? Was the Scythe of Elune the cause of the darkness which spread over Grand Hamlet and turned it into Darkshire? Hopefully we'll find out in Cataclysm. Thankfully, I believe the story of Valinda Starsong is not done. But Lore Library is. So we'll see you next time. The Lore Library is contributed to Hearthstone Tavern by Lorecrafted, the World of Warcraft lore blog. Go check it out at www.lorecrafted.com.
Hi there, this is Michael, also known as Anansi, here to talk about role-playing a Worgen or RPing how you might interact with a Worgen. When it comes to playing a Worgen, you have twice the avenues of RP than most races. Think about it. You have your human side and your Worgen side. You get to RP Jekyll and Hyde, the beauty and the beast, or even a tortured soul or the guilty pleasures of your animal side. Many characters already have two sides to their personalities, or more. People have their visible face they show the world and their secret self they keep hidden away, the proverbial monster inside. In Jungian psychology, people have their conscious self and their shadow self. The shadow self is a person's unconscious self that consists of their repressed weaknesses, shortcomings, and instincts. It's their dark side they don't want the world to see. In a Worgen, you get to be like the Incredible Hulk. You have your controlled, rational side when you're human, and you can let out your character's rage, sorrow, and other negative emotions when they've lost control and are in their wolf aspect. Your RP stems from which side holds more dominance, the wolf or the man. The game mechanics are supposed to work so that when you're in combat, you are forced to shift into your Worgen form. You can stay in your Worgen form all the time, or you can shift into your human form for all times except for combat, if you so choose. You can use this also to augment your RP. Do you shift when tempers flare in RP, or do you relish unleashing your character's bestial nature and giving it free rein? Some might even be completely at peace with their Worgen side and play a civilized person who has overcome the curse to make it more of a useful blessing. It's all in how you decide to approach the curse itself. As for the basis of your character concept, most anything you'd normally come up with as a human character concept is possible as a Worgen. What you would normally do, such as, are you a fisherman or worked on the docks since Gilneas is a peninsula? Have you fought against Forsaken? Have the undead killed those you love? Were you from a merchant family? Think to yourself, what did you do before the Worgen curse struck you and your countrymen and women? Gilneas closed the Great Grey Mane Wall after the Second War. Was there someone who fought in the early war against the Orcish horde? Will you be surprised to see the other races, including your own factions, when you see Taurens and Draenei for the first time? Remember, Gilneas was cut off from everything for the past 20 years or so. So much of the world has changed since the Grey Mane Wall was created that Worgen players will have not ever heard about. As for how the various races might view the Worgen and vice versa, I'll start with their biggest allies, the Night Elves. Night Elves, through Valinda Starsong's prayer to Elune for the strength to counter the Burning Legion in Felwood, came the Worgen. With Night Elves being rather wild and connected with nature, both races might view each other as being more closely tied together than even the Worgen with the humans. We'll have to see how that plays out when Cataclysm is released. As for the humans, some might view the Worgens as poor cursed cousins since they were once human and can interact, in general, looking as much as they do. Some Worgen might have anger at the normal humans and feel a twinge of anger or jealousy, or they might look down on a normal human as if they view the Worgen curse as actually a gift. As for dwarves and gnomes, Worgen might have stories of them or remember them from the Second War. They might remember them being good allies during the battle and have passed on stories down to their children, which would probably be the age of a lot of the players. The other races might view the Worgen as humans who need to be paper-trained at times, are very nervous around them, or view them as humans with potential flea problems. As for the Draenei, I imagine some might be fascinated with them, or might just take them as they act on a case-by-case basis, since neither race really knows much about the other. On the Horde side, as the Forsaken have been battling the Worgen problem for quite a long time, they have a strong dislike for the Sons of Aragal and the Shape Changers of Pyrewood Village. In case you didn't know, Pyrewood Village is very friendly to the Alliance players right now in the game as it stands during the daytime, but when the curse takes effect, they will, and probably until Cataclysm comes out, attack both sides equally in their Worgen form. There's no love lost between this Forsaken and the Worgen. The Orcs might remember and have stories of fighting against the Gilnean forces, but will probably view them like a more dangerous form of humans with a violent side to beware of. The Worgen would probably remember the stories of fighting the Orcish Horde and not understand or accept the noble gestures of Horde leaders like Thrall. Trolls were a part of the Horde back in the Second War and would be remembered in the stories of the past. Interesting thing to consider are how do Worgen druids view their troll cousins? If troll druids might not worry much about the Worgen druids, what will the Worgen's druids think when they see these trolls, unless the stories were never passed down from soldier to children? As for the Tauren, I imagine they'll be just both sides lumping each other in with where they stand on the faction fence. Tauren druids might not be fazed at all by the Worgen druids, but a bit confused, whereas in Worgen druids would probably accept the view of their Night Elf allies concerning the Tauren. Now imagine Blood Elves might really confuse the Worgen race. The last time Gilneans saw them, they were purely High Elves and they fought alongside each other in the Second War. Blood Elves might view them as they do humans, remembering the betrayal during the Third War by the Grand Marshal Garithos, who after being a massive racist to the Blood Elves, was dominated by the Dreadlord Deathrock. The Blood Elves might view them as rabid humans with hair growth issues. As for Goblins, I don't think there'll be much animosity will be held against each other outside the Worgen passing on stories of Goblins serving in the Second War on the Horde side, not knowing that many realized there was more money to be made if they remained neutral during the Third War. I think Goblins will probably think of some nice explosive device to use on the dangerous Worgen puppies who come their way. Hope this helps give people who want to play Worgen some ideas for their RP, and those other races some ideas on possible viewpoints and prejudices to have when interacting with the cursed humans. Some really good resources in case you guys want to look some stuff up. Of course, WoW Wiki. Look up Gilneas, Gilneas. Look up Worgen, obviously. And look up the Second War. And hopefully that will give you some good insight into how to play your Worgen. Next podcast, I'll discuss goblins and role-playing one of them. Until then, have fun role-playing.
Welcome all, this is Brent, otherwise known as Sullivan from RP Made Simple. And today I want to talk to you about Role Player's Block, or RPer's Block. That happens to me every once in a while. I'll get in game, get going, find some RP, and then realize I got nothing. Or I just can't get into my character that day. How do you kick that to the curb and move on? I want to give props to a role player over at Wormcrest Accord, which is on the US RP servers. Thank you very much for this question. How do you move on? How do you make a character which has some life to it when you're role playing? Got some tips. First off, if you haven't done so, research your race, culture, and lore for the game and for your character type. How do you get that information? All right, here's some list of some sites. You can go to Grayseer's, Tharian's site, lorecrafted.com. There's also the wowwiki.com. It's got information on things, and they pull some information from the game books, which are harder to find nowadays, because there was a tabletop game for this, and they did have some stuff. Now, obviously, some of it's going to be kind of whacked out due to Cataclysm, but you can also go to wow.com, which used to be WoW Insider. You can go and look up the lore columns and the RP columns, and there's information there as well. I would say do as much research as you can. Pick what works. Also, don't forget the Blizzard graphic novels, the books, the manga, whatever. All those books do have some sources to draw from. You never know. There might be something there that just helps your character click. Also, I'd like to mention my site, rpmadesimple.org. It has the WoW race notes section, which can be a help on trying to gather information for your character. Once you do that, your next step is to think about your backstory. What kind of character are you? You are setting up your blueprint for everything that you're going to do as far as you act, react, and also grow as a role player. This is your starting point for all this. So you got to figure out where you are in the whole state of the world, what type of character you are, where were you raised, what happened in your childhood, was there anything there that got you thinking about what you were going to do when you, quote-unquote, grew up, and also what's happening now with you as you start to roleplay. You can draw from movies, you can draw from books, you can draw from TV, what have you, whatever inspiration. That also can give you some verbal body language in ways to do like emotes, how a character would react to a certain situation. I would say not copy. I would say adapt it to your character and your backstory, what you have set for this person. After that, write these traits down. If you're aggressive, if you're passive, if you are friendly, if, just whatever. Write these things down. Pick 5 qualities. If someone had to describe your character in 5 words, what would these be? Are you trustworthy? Are you self-seeking? Whatever. Just write this stuff down. Brainstorm it. Pick 5. Here's an idea. Interview yourself as your character. Ask your character, what would your character do? And then try to, in character, explain who he or she is. And that gives you a perspective. If you have a hard time remembering it, write it down. Get you a 3x5 card, write it down. You have that to fall back on as part of your blueprint. Basically, don't forget goals. These are the carrots on the stick for what you do in the future. These are things, when it comes up, things you're going to be working towards. Now, you don't have to have just one goal. You can have one big goal, a couple of small goals. Make that list. Write this list down. Check it twice. And now, here comes the danger room phase, all right? I'm taking this from X-Men. What would you do in a certain situation? Okay, how would you react? In other words, pose some questions to yourself, how he would handle this. You just saw one of your friends being bullied. How would you react? Then whatever your character says, that gives you an idea how your character's going to react in-game to a certain situation. That also helps you prepare yourself if it actually happens in-game. Think of some things that actually will happen in character interactions. Someone may ask you a weird question based on something. Or it says, you don't like them elves, do you? How are you going to react to that? Do you like the other members of your faction, or do you hate them? You just wish everybody would leave you alone? That's going to help you prepare yourself to answer and also react to other people in-game. Once you have an idea of that, if there's some things that stood out, these are your lines in the sand. These are the things that you're not going to compromise on unless there's a massive role play and something changes. Things that are changeable but will be good fun and good role play. Write those down too. Maybe those things will come up and you'll go, wow, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Boom, there you are. After you've done the danger room phase, you're separating what you would do to what your character would do. And just remember that when you play. Here's another idea. If you're still having some problems, you are a more visual type person, find a picture of the type of character that you're trying to emulate. Pop it right next to that list. Put it right there and focus on it. So whenever you feel lost, how would he react in this situation? That can give you pretty much a heads-up clue of what to say or how to say it or what to do. The last thing I would say, if you don't know something, you don't know it. If you do know something in-game, is your character, cool. That's what you have to work with. Don't give yourself too much information, all right? So just make sure you kind of keep that all set up, because if you know everything and you've done everything and you have everything, what is there to do? You're kind of stuck. Until next time, keep role-playing. Take care.
This is the wisdom of Huenal. When you leave your house, make sure you have plenty of ammunition. Thanks for listening to me.
You have been listening to Hearthstone Tavern Roleplay Podcast. highlighting the RP in MMORPG.